What's going on, everybody? Chapter 184 of Vinland Saga was good, but it felt very, very short to me. There are a lot of pages that are one full page spread that kind of take up a lot of space, and it feels kind of like this chapter was deliberately drug out, and I think that it might have been for a couple of reasons. Number one is that next month when we get a Vinland Saga chapter, there's going to be an announcement attached to it, and I can assume that the announcement is probably something along the lines of talking about when Season 2 of the anime is going to premiere, when it's going to drop on Amazon Prime, the first episode. So very, very excited for that because that will be covering my favorite arc of Vinland Saga and one of my favorite arcs in any anime manga format at all, which is the slave arc, and I just cannot wait to see this thing animated. I'm wondering how they're going to pace it out and how exactly it's going to feel, because the slave arc doesn't necessarily have the same amount of heightened action as the first arc does of the series, and if a lot of people are kind of coming into it for that, they might be a little bit disappointed, but it is so important for Thorfinn's character and the development that he goes through. So I can assume that that's probably what the announcement's going to be. I could be wrong. I'm wrong many times in my life, but that's probably what it's going to be. And I feel like with that and the next chapter drop, the next chapter will probably be some sort of tonal shift within the story, because it does feel like we are reaching the crux of things that could potentially go wrong here with Thorfinn, and I feel like maybe this chapter was specifically drug out just so that we wouldn't get too far into the story and we would be able to drop that tonal shift of a chapter at the same time we get an announcement and have a big festive Vinland Saga day perhaps. But in this chapter, we get the first meeting between Thorfinn and the natives, and I have to say it goes pretty well for his character, and pretty well for the entire idea of how Thorfinn wanted to present himself to the natives here and create some form of peace between the two different types of people. Now, they are not able to speak the same language, but a great point is given here by Gudrid, and Gudrid is just such a good woman, by the way, that people don't necessarily have to speak the same language or communicate the same way in order to be friends, in order to respect each other on some level. And Thorfinn right away goes to show, as many things as he's been through in his life, he knows how to remain calm in a tense situation, and that's one of the most important attributes you can have as a warrior, as a person, as a human being, just in general, is being able to keep your cool in intense confrontation situations. And this wasn't even necessarily a confrontation, it was just a meeting. The first thing he points out is he notices how they tied a knife to the end of a spear, the knife that Thorfinn left for him and everything, and compliments on how that was a great idea for them to do. Of course, they aren't able to understand what he's saying, but they recognize the energy and the vibe that he's giving off of friendliness. There's no antagonism in the way that he acts, in the way that he's speaking, in his mannerisms, in his body language, and that's a very, very important thing and a very important tell as well, because that happens just in nature between animals and between creatures. It's our body language that really kind of tells and shows exactly what we're feeling. A lot of animals don't really have that sort of barrier where they're able to fake their emotions and fake what they're feeling, and so through body language you can tell if they're ready to attack, if they're scared, if they're in fight or flight or anything. And Thorfinn coming at this sort of in that respect, sort of like two animals meeting each other, coming at it completely calm. And I like how we get the differences of culture right away, where he goes for the handshake and they have no idea what that means, and the other men that come to Thorfinn's aid are wondering why these men don't have beards, even questioning, are they men? They don't have beards, which is really, really funny to me. And then we also get Evyar coming to the situation, getting ready to pull out his sword, and it's still way too early for things to go that awry, but he was willing to pull out the sword already. And I also love this little panel of him putting the sword back into its little sheath there, just sort of like nonchalantly, like, shink, I'm just gonna put this back here, no big deal, nobody saw anything, right? Except, yeah, Cordelia saw you. The illegitimate child of Thorkel, who was raised as a woman, and is sort of looked at a little bit as an outcast by the group, just, well, given the situation. Now, I do believe that most everybody in the group thinks of her and knows her as a woman and doesn't actually know the backstory behind her and everything, but at the same time, she is sort of looked at in a despairing way just because of her build, of her body type, the fact that she's so massively strong. I believe that they were forcing her to sort of like work and help in the fields and everything like that with the rest of the men, even though she's a woman, or, well, is, was raised as a woman and it prefers to be a woman. You know what I'm talking about. But anyways, this could cause a pretty huge conflict because it was her specifically that saw that Eviar had the sword. Now, she doesn't tell anybody in this chapter, but you know that they're going to go to her to try to keep her quiet, and since they already have a disdain for her, since they already don't like her just to begin with, I could imagine this going south really fast. Now, she probably has more physical strength than Eviar, but she has no training whatsoever, at least I believe no training whatsoever when it comes to swordsmanship and fighting and everything, so Eviar could definitely have the upper hand if any sort of confrontation goes on between them. It's just a matter of whether or not Cordelia would be able to get to Thorfinn or somebody else quick enough to tell them what's going on. Maybe they're going to try to bribe her in some way to keep her quiet. This part's really interesting. So I was wondering what the Cordelia character was going to wind up doing in this manga, and the fact, I think this little dynamic right here, this exact scene, I think this is a great purpose for the character. So I'm down with this, on board with that. The rest of the manga pretty much has the rest of Thorfinn's crew kind of coming up, staying at, keeping their distance and everything while Thorfinn tries to interact. He's sort of, one thing I really love that he does is he tries to introduce himself and his crew as Nordic people. So he says Nord, and I love the panel where he's just like, he's putting his hand across all of the people behind him and saying like, look, Nord, we're all Nord. And I don't know, just little things like that I just think is really cute, and I appreciated that part of the manga. Now, he gets it a little bit wrong where he isn't able to tell the type of tribe of people it is. It is the, I'm going to butcher the hell out of this, but the Mi Kamak? I don't know. Blast me in the comments. I don't know how to pronounce it. But he thinks that it's something else, a different word. They're trying to speak back and forth to one another, but can't really sort of comprehend what each other is saying. But for the most part, this is a very peaceful interaction. At the end, one of the natives asks Thorfinn a question, and of course we don't know what the question is. I'm not sure what this word means. I'm not sure if these are actual words. This is probably a fan translation, so I don't know if Talusian actually means something or not. But he says this while holding out his hand, and then Thorfinn goes for the hand to shake it, and he's saying, nice to meet you and everything, to which the native looks a little bit off. He looks a little bit off about it, but at the same time, now we sort of have this introduction complete. Even if he doesn't perfectly understand what a handshake means, again, he's going to get the vibe from the body language of what Thorfinn is presenting. And yeah, very, very short chapter, not a lot going on here, just the initial meeting between the natives and Thorfinn and the thing with Cordelia and Eviar. But beyond that, just, I don't know, I expected a little bit more from this chapter to where the cliffhanger of the last one ended, and I feel like this was pretty short. I don't even think it was a full 20 pages, but again, if there's going to be some sort of tonal shift and change within the manga, sort of shifting into a more tension-filled direction, it's probably going to come with the next chapter, as the next chapter is coming with an announcement of some sort, which, like I said, will probably be the announcement of Season 2 of the anime, which I cannot wait for personally. Beyond that, I'm not really sure where it's going to go from here. The natives will probably part ways for now. They're probably going to go back to their tribe and talk about the interaction, and we'll get that translation within that talk. And then back in Thorfinn's camp, we're probably going to focus on Eviar getting Cordelia to make sure that she does not tell anybody that they brought swords along. And if Cordelia winds up going to Thorfinn first, then we're going to have a confrontation between Thorfinn and Eviar, and you know that Thorfinn is not going to rest until those swords are gone. He's going to throw them into the ocean or something, and if he finds out about it, there's no way he's just going to let it go. You know, he has to establish himself as the leader of this group, as he has many times, and people are pretty much on board with Thorfinn and following him along the way. There's just this one little issue of weapons, and that little issue can probably become a gigantic issue in no time. So yeah, guys, let me know what you think. If you read 184 of Vinland Saga, what do you think of the chapter? And what do you guys think of the announcement is going to be next month with the next chapter? With chapter 185, big announcement coming. Do you think it's the anime like I do? Do you think it's going to be something else? And where do you see the story going after this? Please put all your thoughts and theories down in the comments below. I would love to hear all of them. I want to talk to more Vinland Saga fans and cover a lot more Vinland Saga content on this channel, so definitely share this video also with other Vinland Saga fans. I would really, really appreciate it. Let people know I'm reviewing this chapter by chapter so we can all get into the discussion and I can meet some more Vinland Saga fans. I'd really appreciate it. Other than that, guys, just like the video and comment because it does help out in the algorithm. And if you want to support the channel on that extra level, you can check the links in the description for my Patreon, merch store, and various social medias where you can follow me. Other than that, guys, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you next time.